Meagan Barnes lives in Crystal City with her husband Isaac and son Michael. I met Meagan through her advocacy work. She was Mrs. District of Columbia 2013. Her platform was on raising awareness of mental health issues. As someone who experienced and conquered debilitating anxiety, panic attacks, and agoraphobia, Meagan has made it part of her life mission to share her story with women all over the world, to give them hope and let them know that they are not alone. She believes that a critical step to recovery is support. She is the founder of Anxiety Angel and hosts a monthly peer support group in the DC metro area. Meagan will read Putting a Name to My Pain.
As far back as I can remember, I've always been anxious, scared, and worried. I was scared to be home alone. I was scared to stay in the car by myself when my parents would run into the grocery store. I remember in elementary school, making my mom walk me all the way into my classroom because I didn't want to be left alone. I remember my stomach getting so upset during class that my mom requested that my school allow me to keep saltine crackers in my locker to settle my stomach. I grew up as the only girl in a house full of boys. I grew up in a low-income, biracial household. We were definitely poor. I went to school without lunch some days. I always envied the other girls in school that had all the nice clothes and shoes, but I kept myself busy and out of trouble by becoming an athlete. After high school, I didn't go to college, although I look back and wonder sometimes what happened to me. I was an all-state basketball player, but lacked the motivation and support to move to the next level. I ended up getting pregnant at 19 and had my son Michael at 20. I recall sitting in the delivery room the evening after Michael was born and just crying uncontrollably. For weeks after I had my son, I recall still feeling this way. I think my mom was my saving grace at that time. Anytime I felt overwhelmed, she was there to step in and comfort me. My level of anxiety and worry and fear definitely was escalated by the birth of my son. At the age of 25, I experienced my first panic attack. I was sitting at work, and all of a sudden, I started to feel dizzy, lightheaded, and numb. Then my heart started to beat uncontrollably. I had no idea what was going on. My first reaction was to jump up from my desk. I walked over to my coworker and asked him to call 911. When 911 arrived, they took my vitals and transported me to the emergency room. I spent 3 hours in the ER and was released and told, all things check out clear, you're free to go. I was never told what could possibly be the culprit of me feeling this way. The word anxiety was never mentioned. That was the story of my life from July 2008 until 2010. I took countless trips to the emergency room, doctors, specialists. I got blood work, scans, and was even hooked up to a heart monitor for days. All the tests came back clear. Everyone told me I was fine. But I wasn't fine. I was confused more than ever. How could I be fine? I was hurting. I was in pain. I was suffering every day. I feared the things in my life that I used to enjoy doing. I became agoraphobic and was scared to leave my house. Not only was I scared to leave, but I was scared to stay. I was scared to drive my car, ride the train, go grocery shopping. The everyday tasks that I used to do suddenly became the most difficult tasks. From the time I opened my eyes every morning to the time I closed them to go to sleep, I lived in fear. I would force myself to go to work. Despite all of my anxiety, I would have anywhere from 3 to 5 full-blown panic attacks at work on any given day. I would end my day curled up, sitting in the shower, just praying and hoping that tomorrow this would all be over, that this horrible, horrible nightmare would be over, because I can't stand the pain and I can't see past the moment. All I could see is what my life had been and feels like it always will be. To this day, I am shocked that not one doctor suggested I may have anxiety. During one visit to the ER, my husband suggested to the doctor that it might be anxiety. The doctor said point blank, no. If it was, then something would have triggered it. She would not have been just sitting there and it come out of the blue. I think looking back to that day, I realized how impactful that one statement from the doctor was. I wouldn't even entertain the fact that I could possibly have anxiety because the doctor told me no. And I wonder if I could have avoided so much heartache and pain if I was told yes. Maybe you do have anxiety. Maybe you should see a therapist. So how did I get diagnosed with anxiety? I diagnosed myself. My husband and I spent many, many hours researching my symptoms to get to the bottom of it. We found the I in anxiety, the I in panic, and the I in agoraphobia. I went to my primary doctor and told her all the pain and suffering I was in was indeed anxiety. I asked her, why didn't anyone tell me that this is what it could be? She really didn't have an answer, but she ended up agreeing with me and prescribing me Lexapro and Xanax. Although I feared the pills, I eventually ended up taking Xanax to calm me enough so I could focus on getting better and focus on myself. Although I am med-free today, those pills helped me get through the worst period of my life, and I'm so grateful for them. You know, people are so quick to judge and tell you whether or not medicine is needed for mental illness. But why are they not quick to judge a cancer patient with their chemo, a heart disease patient with their meds, or a diabetic with their insulin? Mental illness and mental disorders should be treated with as much care and concern as people struggling with any other disorder. So standing here today, I can tell you I'm a much stronger person. I've conquered my anxiety. I still have my bad days. But I've gone from a constant worrier to a warrior fighting to help erase the stigma so commonly associated with mental health disorders. I run a local support group for women suffering with anxiety and panic disorders. I'm an ambassador for Mental Health America. I'm a founder of Anxiety Angel, which is dedicated to helping women with anxiety. I even won the title of Mrs. DC America 2013, and I stood on a stage in front of hundreds of people at Mrs. America promoting my mental health platform. I've learned to be happy, to live a full life, to live a life of service, to help other women that are struggling with the same thing that held me down for so many years, the same thing that had a grip on my life and turned me into someone I never wanted to be. But the most important thing I can tell you today is that I'm still here. I did not end my life, and I did not find the I in suicide. There are so many times I told myself, I just don't know if I can live like this for the rest of my life. Yet I am standing here today to tell you that despite all the pain, all the physical and emotional pain, that I chose life. And I want to tell each and every one of you out there that may be struggling with mental health issues, there are people who care for you. You may feel as if no one understands, but there are people who care and want to help you. Don't lose hope. Please stay alive.